3 C's. Very, very important. And that's communicate with clarity and consistency.
Welcome back to Cracking the Code. In this series, we're introducing you to the business coaches who work with us here at Contractor University. To keep receiving more great content like this, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share this episode. We really appreciate it when other folks in the industry join us to help the entire industry be better tomorrow than it is today. So let's get to it. Many contractors are incredibly busy running their companies, but that doesn't always mean they have the time to step back and think strategically about their business. Long-term planning, financial discipline, and building systems that support sustainable growth are areas where experienced guidance can be incredibly valuable. Our guest today on Cracking the Code is John Winn, one of our business coaches here at Contractor University. John brings deep experience in business leadership and financial management, helping contractors develop the systems and discipline required to build companies that are both profitable and sustainable over the long term. Hey, John, it's great to have you with us today on Cracking the Code.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Bet, man. We're glad to have you on the team and glad to take away your virgin status on Cracking the Code. Plan on doing this more, bud. So let's start a little bit with your background. How'd you first get involved in the HVAC industry?
You know, I got involved in HVAC by accident. In the late 90s, I know a long time ago, I was giving business risk management and human resources management seminars to businesses across the state of Texas. I mean, thousands of them, literally. And I ran across a gentleman who owned a company, and he said, I need someone in my company to do what you're coaching us to do, right? He had a high experience modifier. He was paying way too much for insurance products. So I went in as a human resources and sort of a risk manager, kind of a policy kind of HR person. After a couple of months, the owner came to me and he says, the HVAC owner came to me and he says, hey, you got a business degree, right? Well, yeah. Okay, you are general manager. Congratulations. So that's how I got into HVAC. And it was really a blessing because not coming from the industry, I didn't have any preconceived notions. So everything that I was coached to do that was proven and practical, I got to implement. So that's how I got into it, sort of by accident, giving business seminars, and there you go.
And, a lot of us get into it that way. Of course, a lot of us are born into it, like Coach Joel and Coach Bob, and I guess me too. So we're kind of born into the industry, but it's good to have that outside perspective, isn't it?
It is actually, because, with a business degree, right, you already understand what financials should look like. It doesn't matter the business, right? Making money is making money. But really more than that, you learned about the importance of relationships, right? So understanding the importance of relationships and imparting that to service technicians, installers, salespeople, CSRs was a big part of the success of that organization and in my career success. So, yes.
That's cool. That's really cool. So what led you into coaching contractors?
So I worked in the HVAC industry from January of 2001 until late 2017. I left HVAC to become a public school teacher and coach in Texas. I know, right? So I took a 75% pay cut to go coach in a public school in Texas. I got tired, honestly, of interviewing technicians and just people who didn't know how to interview. So I wanted to do something about it. So I did, and I became a public school teacher and coach in Texas. I did that for about 5 years. It was great. I absolutely loved it. About 3 years ago, I ran across an individual. I didn't know him. I rented his RV, of all things. His name was Tim Williamson. And I went to Rent RV America or something like that, where you can rent RVs. And I go pick it up, and Tim asked, hey, what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm a teacher and coach in Mount Pleasant, Texas. And he says, oh, well, that's cool. That's good. We appreciate teachers. And I said, oh, by the way, I ran a large HVAC shop in Dallas, Fort Worth for several years. And he goes, oh, Oh, really? Well, what was the name of the company? And I said, oh, you probably don't know it. And he said, well, I did try it. Well, it's Airco, air conditioning, heating, and plumbing. Okay, well, yeah, I remember that company. Yeah, I know that company. I didn't know it, but Tim was a business coach. So he said, hey, when you bring this back, let's chat for a few minutes. So I bring it back in, 4 or 5 days, and Tim and I are talking, and he goes, so he asked me some operational questions about HVAC business owners. And after about 20 minutes of chatting, he goes, you'd make a great business coach. And I went, I appreciate that. Thank you. But I love teaching, and it's great. He says, I'm going to remember you, and I may give you a call in a couple of months. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. In a couple of months, Tim reaches out and he goes, hey, we have a position open as a business coach. Are you interested? And originally I said, no, I'm not interested, not at all, because I'm a teacher, right? And one of the class that I was teaching is called Investigating Careers. And I love the class. I got to write the curriculum, and you can bet my students know how to read a P&L statement, believe it or not. After about a week, I thought about it. I thought, you know what? In about a month, my kids are going to go through an interviewing skills class. I'm going to call Tim back, and I'm just going to interview, record it for my kids so they can see what a real interview is like. So I called Tim back and said, yeah, I'm interested. Well, long story short, I went through 4 interviews. And by the time that 4th interview was over with, I realized I have a lot to offer the HVAC industry, especially business owners, managers, key people. So I joined a business coaching organization about 3 years ago. So that's how I got into coaching, and I've loved it ever since. So essentially, my students changed from junior high and high school kids to business owners.
It's kind of an interesting transition too. And my family is really rich in educators as well. My mom was a teacher. My wife's a teacher. I got a sister that's a teacher. We got a lot of teachers. My grandfather used to teach at the local trade school, as did my dad when he was running the heating and air business. So we got a lot of teachers on our side, and we appreciate teachers. And I'm in agreement with you. I mean, when I interviewed you for this job, I was just like, this is a no-brainer, because the fact that we understand the concepts are great, but can we communicate them? Right? Can we communicate them? Can we help people get from where they are to where they want to be? Right? And I felt really comfortable with that with you. So I'm really glad that you're on the team. So think about this, looking back over your career, what are some of the lessons that really shaped how you approach running and or advising a business owner?
That's a great question. When I got into teaching, obviously I was successful leading teams, for an HVAC company through processes, leadership, those types of things. I applied those same processes to teaching and coaching. For example, as a first year coach, as a 50-something, I know I look like a veteran teacher and coach in Texas, but I was a first year coach, obviously 5 years ago, 5 or 8 years ago now. And the thing that I did some things that other coaches would look at me, you're crazy. For example, I coached junior high girls basketball teams, right? I would game plan a junior high basketball game. I would actually have a game plan, and we talk about it. The other coach would look, why are you game planning a junior high game? Well, doesn't everyone? No, you just show up. No, I don't want to do that, because you've got to have a plan. You've got to have a process. If my 5 on the floor don't know what we're trying to accomplish, then we may not be as successful as we want to be. So I approached everything with a plan going into it, right? So, for example, in basketball, our goal number 1 when the game started, make the other team call a timeout before we do, right? We make them call a timeout to fix a problem we've presented. And because I want, just like in running a business, I want these players to actually be coaches on the floor, just like I want technicians to be almost business owners in their little world, right? So when we would make the other team call a timeout, halfway through the season, I'd ask them when we'd come over, okay, now what are we going to do to that other team? Coach, we're going to give them another problem to solve. All right, perfect. So now they're all little coaches, right? Just like a technician, right? When you teach a process, they learn it and they're successful. now they become little business owners in their own world, and that's the best environment you can have. So,
I actually used to say some similar things to some of my techs. I said, man, if I had a whole business full of you, because you see it, from a business perspective, we would be a whole lot better off. Because I did have some techs that I inherited that, it was just all about them. And that's hard. They didn't see the big picture. It was just always about them. And it's like, you're either going to figure this out, we're going to do our best to teach you, or we're going to relocate you to another company. It's just, it's the right thing to do.
So how that translates to what, what light bulbs go off to business owners now. And what I'm finding is when business owners learn the power of communication, I teach a manager training class, and I tell them there's a very important 3 C's, very, very important. And that's communicate with clarity and consistency. Whether you're a general manager, a service manager, or business owners, you have to communicate with clarity, communicate with clarity and consistency, right? So what I mean by that is, and when they put this into practice, everything changes for the better. For example, if your technicians don't know what their daily revenue goal is because you just didn't communicate it, then they're going to follow their plan. And their plan is not always your plan, because their plan is going to be the path of least resistance, right? So the first thing is we've got to communicate with clarity and consistency. So every day, a technician has to know what their daily revenue goal is. And about halfway through the day, for example, this is your process, just like you're coaching a group of basketball players. Your process is at midday, I'm going to give you an update. If your revenue goal for the day is $2,000 and you're at $500, I'm going to tell you, hey, you're at $500. And I'm going to send a message out to the team that says, hey, as a team, we need $5,000 today. This is where we are. How are we going to get there the rest of the day? Right? So you're going to communicate that every day. And if you do that consistently, before you know it, if you don't communicate what the revenue goal of the day is, they're going to call you out on it. Like a month later, they're going to go, hey, what's our goal today? Right? I haven't seen it yet. A kind of a cool story in teaching and how that worked. Also, when I was doing HVAC meetings, I was in every one, right? And the ones that I would chair, when I would end, I'd always tell my people, hey, I love you all. Have a great day. And, and they expected that, right? Well, when I started teaching 7th and 8th graders, when the bell would ring, I would say, hey, I love you all, guys. Have a great day. I'm not going to lie. The first couple of times, the kids would look around like, oh, this Coach Winn, he's kind of a creeper, right? Well, that's okay. You can't hurt my feelings, I promise. About a couple of months into the school year, the bell rang one day and I was busy doing something, and I didn't say, hey, I love you all. Have a great day. When the bell rang, the kids just sat there. They didn't leave. One of the kids finally, a few seconds later, said, hey, Coach Winn, do you love us? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I love you. Have a great day. Now they've got permission to leave, right? When you communicate with clarity and consistency and they expect it, now it's the norm and not the exception. So when business owners learn that, lights go off, tickets go up, and everybody's happy.
Man, that's a great story, John. And it reminds me of the, back when I was running Dad's business, I had service techs that just cared about making 8. They didn't really care about the big picture. They didn't understand the big picture because we weren't real good at communicating it up front. But once they got it, man, it made a lot of difference. So, this has been so good. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite you back for another episode. Like right now, we're going to go ahead and close this one out so we can move on to the next one. But let me say this, thanks a lot for sharing your experiences and insights with us today. You're going to be able to get on again, and let's share some more. And guys and gals, coaches like Coach Winn here are available to help you think through the leadership, financial, and strategic challenges of running a contracting business, and a whole lot more. Check us out at mycontractoruniversity.com. Thanks for listening to Cracking the Code, where we make running an HVAC business fun, profitable, and stress-free. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share this episode. Until next time, keep on cracking.